What's up, guys? We're back with an interesting movie.
Yeah, this is a movie that I wasn't sure if I was really going to go see. Not because like I had any like predetermined,
preconceptions.
Yeah, but I just didn't know if I was gonna like get it because it wasn't that much on my radar. But I'm glad we went to go see it because it surprised me a bit.
I'm pretty sure this movie's on DVD. That's how far back we are.
Actually, I looked it up recently. If you guys are wondering, I think the 4K and the Blu-ray comes out like at the end of February, I think. So, in case you're already saw it and you're wanting to get it, or you're just wanting to make sure nobody else gets these. But with that being said, I think the premise, like pretty much everybody knows it. But in case you're living under a rock or something, I'll tell you just real quick. It focuses on this young German boy. That is...
His name's not JoJo.
Yeah.
But that's his nickname.
Yeah, his name is JoJo. Why does everybody call JoJo a nickname? Like, nobody actually... well, whatever. I digress. Anyway...
that wasn't the biggest problem in their society.
Yeah. That probably would have been, a little bit farther down. But this focuses... Obviously, it's set in World War II. Focuses on this young boy that has he's a fanatic, like most people in his community, about a certain... someone, so much so that he imagines him at his imaginary best friend, and we're talking none other than Adolf Hitler, played by Taika Waititi. So yeah, and it basically shows like a little bit of that life during that time. Focuses primarily on this boy's youth and just what comes with that time period. So with that being said, Michael, what did you think? Like, what was your thoughts going into this movie beforehand? I actually do want to. I'm curious.
So I watched the trailer a couple times, and you could see there was comedic elements in it. I mean, you kind of have to be because if you're not comedic, it's just depressing.
Yeah.
So
plus, that's been done before.
Yeah. So going into it, I had decent expectations, and I think where this movie is at its strongest is in its comedic elements. Obviously, it does a pretty good job of explaining life in Germany during that time, and I think it especially does. There's probably 2 or 3 scenes where it has historical clips, like grafted into there with the youth. So I think it does have an interesting focus with the youth soldiers, child soldiers, towards the end of the war. I think. There's like 2 elements that it kind of struggles to get me in. I think like the drama towards the end was pretty good, but there was some cringe, there was some awkwardness.
Yeah,
there's definitely some awkwardness in there, and then I think I don't know. I think the end is a little abrupt. I feel like. Which I guess it probably was abrupt when that happened, when America was in Berlin.
I mean, because it potentially could have ended really bad for them. Like even then, like it's probably not the best of time. Like immediately after, where the film decides to stop.
But yeah, so the second issue is probably just like time issue. I feel like it
because this movie was already having a bad, like hard enough time being made. So like
but I feel like the portrayal of World War II as far as like time is related, it felt like it happened in like a week. And like from the beginning to the end of the movie, I felt like it was at least like a year or 2 or at least a year is what it seemed like. So I think that was kind of an issue. But because like I think when the movie starts, they make a comment like, "Oh, I don't remember exactly, but I don't know. I don't think D-Day has happened." But yeah, I don't know. They have a really good sense of comedy, and I think that's probably the area where it shines.
Yeah, I think the comedy, like for the most part, it lands really well. But I would say probably the biggest downside to the movie is also in their jokes, because they're like you said, there's a couple times where it's just awkward or just kind of cringe. But it's not. But I think that's more so my personal preference, because like for instance, there's a scene with Scarlett Johansson. By the way. Not the biggest fan of her, but she is a really good actress, and I think she does this role really well. But there is one scene that's like, supposed to be kind of comedic or at least lighthearted, because it does have like a serious message behind it. But I find it kind of cringe, and it's just because like I think when an adult is talking to a child as if they're a child, or they kind of do that, like pretend like, oh, I'm trying to be on your level. I feel like that's just like it just makes it's not that kind of humor for me. So there's times like that. that I feel like, oof, that really didn't land. Like, but I would say a lot of their historical jokes, like, dude, if you know history, which both of us, like, we like history, we've been history buffs, so there's a lot of those jokes that are based off of material like that I find just, you know, absolutely nail it. But I think the biggest thing with this is that, you know, this movie got a lot of flack, right, when it was like advertised or marketed and stuff like that, and people were like, oh, it's very controversial. And I think, you know, as long as you got like the mindset of just being like, this is a movie, like most people should have if they're watching a movie, this is entertainment, like you can, you know, dissociate some of that stuff. And, you know, even with people that I think were afraid that they were going to take it too far, they really do, you know, punch the bag on both sides. So, like, you know, yes, they have Jewish jokes and they're really funny, and then they also have shots at the Germans too, and like their ideologies and stuff like that. So, you know, they really do balance it out in a way. I think, you know, you can really see the comedy behind, and like, or the intentions behind the comedy.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that's hard when you're doing a movie about people in Germany is you can't really during that time is you can't really make them totally relatable, because like obviously a lot of people went along with the Nazi movement and were bad. Yeah. So like, you know, you can't be like, oh, all these people are good. So I think it has a good balance there. Another scene that I was just, so obviously there's a scene with Scarlett Johansson where, yeah, she pretends to be the dad. And that one is what Josh was talking about earlier. That was really awkward. And then the other scene is when, like, the kid's, like, there's a kid that professes his love to someone. And I don't know, like, maybe some demographics are like, you know, maybe if you're like 65-year-old woman, you'd be like, oh, that's so cute. For me, it's just like, oh, I'm dead inside.
Most people do find that cute, but then again, like,
it's creepy just, and it's weird.
Yeah, I just don't. It's not the humor for
me. And it's also like not, I don't know, maybe it's relatable to some people, but to me it's just like,
it's too relatable. That's the problem. Maybe not really, but you know what I mean. Like, there's some times where, you know, whatever
stuff like that happens when you're grown up. But yeah, it's weird.
But the one thing that also I was really, I mean, there's quite a few things that surprised me about the film. But one thing that I thought was, you know, like right off the bat was like noticeable was the cast, like because there was a couple, you know, things when I saw the trailer, and it was maybe part of the reason why I was kind of like iffy on it was because, you know, there's a couple names in there that I do like. I can't remember the guy's name that does the drill sergeant for like the Nazi youth, but I really do like him. I think he's a funny dude in some of the other movies I've seen him in. But there is, you know, obviously with like, you know, the child actors, those are always a hit or miss. You know, lately I feel like, you know, they've been doing a good job of getting like better young talent. But that was one that I was like, hey, right off the bat, you know, not bad, pretty good. Like we said, there's a couple of like jokes in there that they give them that's like oof. But for the most part, I was really, you know, really enjoyed seeing the portrayals of those characters. I think Taika Waititi is probably like the standout in this as Adolf, because it's just it's just ridiculous, and I just love the way he plays that. Yeah, like they give him like some historical jokes that land really, but then just like because like the kid is imagining, you know, what he, you know, what his like daily life is, or like what he thinks. So, like there's a scene where like, you know, he thinks like Adolf Hitler like eats unicorn every night, and there's like a scene of him at the dinner table eating like a unicorn head. Like it's like random crap.
There's
like
a scene of him swimming while the kid is swimming. That's
yeah, too. He's got a gun underwater. Yeah, you know, so stuff like that I think he does a really good job with. I kind of go back and forth like with him and like in the MCU stuff that he's done. Like some of the stuff like you know, like whatever, like. But in this, I did like him a lot more. I think the one thing, like, I don't know if you were surprised about it, Michael, but what did you think of, like, the drama? Because I think they didn't really market this at all as having, like, a drama aspect of, you know, having those serious tones being touched on. But I quite liked it. I thought it was a pleasant surprise. I don't know if some of the later trailers marketed it as that, but I thought it like actually did a good job of like, benefiting.
There's one death that hits you pretty hard here.
Mm-hmm. Like that's beautifully set up, by the way. Whoever made the decision, that was good. I'm just gonna say it.
But yeah, so it's that time of the video. What's your rating, Josh? And any other additional comments you wanted to give?
Yeah, so you know, like I said, the serious tone. I like it a lot. I think it's done well. Where it's at the core, it's still a comedy and lighthearted movie, but I think those serious tones really help bring or like flesh out like the serious backdrop that they have. And I think it's actually really overall surprised me. So for my rating, I would say this is really hard because, like I said, I didn't absolutely love the film, but I thought it was a really well done film. So I respect it a lot for what it did, and like I'm glad movies like that have a chance to get made, especially in a time where we are kind of like hit and miss with stuff like that, especially with the creativity side. So I think actually, as much as I kind of go back and forth, I think I will give this a Gotta Have It, just because I think it is such a different film. It does stand out a lot, and I think it really does do a good job of taking something that has been done a lot, focusing on like that time period and like that perspective or whatever, but really making it different and also enjoyable, because it's like you have to. I think anything that can really make you laugh or just kind of have like a light have like a heartwarming moment, and like something that's a really depressing scenario, it does a good job of, or I should say it deserves praise for that.
Yeah, this one's kind of hard of a rating for me.
It really
because
is.
It has really high highs. It has some really good moments. Some really, I wasn't laughing out loud in the theater.
Yeah.
But it does have some really good moments to it. And it also, but at the same time, it has some okay moments. And it has, for me, one or two moments where I was like, oh, I'm not comfortable watching this. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably give it a worth it. It's between a worth it and a Gotta Have It.
Yeah, same for me.
Overall, I think it's a movie you should definitely go and see. And one of the good things is, I wouldn't necessarily see it in theaters at this point, but you can get it on DVD, and I would watch that, and then you can just like skip the scenes that you don't love.
Yeah,
because like if those scenes weren't in there, if those two scenes weren't in there, it'd probably be like a solid Gotta Have It, close to a 9. But
I think what makes this kind of a step up from just like a regular worth it is that it does have a lot of rewatching to it. Like there's a lot of good moments, like you said, that you could just go back and just watch those scenes again, and every once in a while watch it for beginning to end too. And
I'm sure there's some like great quotes in there. Like I'm sure the movie's pretty quotable. I don't remember a lot of the jokes, but I'm sure I probably will buy it or watch it later and enjoy the experience. It'll be a pleasant experience for sure.
Yeah, so nice start to 2020, having a few of those surprises thrown in there. We will be back for some more movie reviews, so stay tuned to that. I'm going to try to see if me and Graham can go back for a certain movie that we watched recently that came out last year. So that being said, there's stuff all around. Go check out other stuff. We'll be back. So peace out.
Suggestions.